What scientific fact scares the absolute shit out of you? Scientific literature's conclusion on Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative diseases in general is that the diseases start decades before the first obvious symptoms, and that we need to treat them at this stage. When you exhibit obvious symptoms, it's too late. Your brain is already mush. If you get diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 65, you had the disease since your early 40s at least. And you experienced very mild symptoms but didn't notice them, and your brain fought like hell to compensate for the deficit. When you get diagnosed, your brain is already very severely damaged and will never recover from the deficit. There is nothing more scary to me than Alzheimer's. Probably one of the worst ways to go in my mind. Forgetting who you are, who your family is, losing your ability to function independently. It's one of the scariest thoughts to me. I would rather get cancer than go through Alzheimer's. The fact that your body can have advancing cancer, and you wouldn't know it sometimes. Father-in-law's brother was walking through his kitchen, and he fainted and hit his head on the counter. He was rushed to the hospital and they ran tests, and he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and his body was already in the endgame. He was dead within 2 months of diagnosis. That shit terrifies me, and it can happen to anyone. Pancreatic cancer is pretty much one of the worst you can get because there are no signs until it's too late. It's the rabies of cancer. Our white blood cells are fighting cancer cells on the daily. If everyone lived forever, we would all eventually get cancer. Statistical fact. Your cells are just going to split weird eventually and mutate. Asterisk mutate just the right way. They have random mutations pretty much every time they divide, but once a few very specific mutations come together, you have cancer. Space just in general. Or that bit about the Higgs field not being in true equilibrium, and that returning to it would break everything as we know it. Your brain can just stoke out and die at any time, but you can survive them. I've had 13 mini strokes and one full-blown half my body is dead stroke. Better believed I quit smoking and changed out of my stressful job. When my friend started studying medicine, she said she's surprised we're not dead yet because she's constantly learning about so many ways and things that can kill people so easily. I don't remember what it was called, but there was an event in the 1800s caused by solar activity where telegraphs operated on their own without power, and I think caused minor damage. Should such a solar event happen again, it would destroy all of our internet network capabilities and other electrical gear. Anyone know what I'm referring to? Edit. Carrington event. Thanks for the links. I would be interested to know if we would be as badly affected as people initially thought. A couple decades ago, sure, technology was extremely fragile and slight power fluctuations would fry everything. But these days, I don't know if that's still the case. Bearing in mind that the bulk of the issues would come from the mains power grid and telephone lines picking up voltage differentials over massive distances. Most comms these days uses fiber rather than copper, so that is not as big of an issue. A lot of tech these days is also power filtered, or runs via an isolated transformer that would likely pop first before toasting everything else. Smaller devices like phones and laptops are unlikely to be big enough to have enough voltage variance across them to cause any real damage. There would be disruption, sure, but I don't think it would be as cataclysmic as people used to think it would be. That one day, I will die. I don't know why, but sometimes at night, as I'm falling asleep, I suddenly think of this and it freaks me out. Like start feeling super anxiety. I get so scared when I think about dying that I almost start crying. It's horrible, and I don't think I will ever be at peace with death. Thank you for the reward. I don't know if it's any comfort, but that existential terror feeling is just your brain returning an error message when it comes across something it can't comprehend. It has no way of understanding death, or life for that matter, nor even the very nature of consciousness, how it could be created or destroyed. It's literally beyond comprehension. Your brain just doesn't know how to react. Your brain is also pre-programmed to fear death via evolution, which doesn't help. A lot of anxieties are caused by your brain doing things it thinks will help you stay alive that it doesn't understand, and reacts irrationally. Just accept that feeling as an evolutionary hang-up that isn't helpful. Thank your brain for the warning, but let it know it isn't needed right now. The metaphysical aspect of consciousness. Where is consciousness? What is it? When does it really end? Where does it go when we die? When we sleep? How does it occupy our entire being without being physically present? We are quite literally the universe experiencing itself, in a fragile little bubble on a mote of dust in a sunbeam. And yet, what exactly are we? That's the sort of question that keeps me up at night. I don't fear death. I don't fear world annihilation. But I am deeply unsettled by the mere experience of being aware. Being aware, witnessing things. What blows my mind is thinking about the eons of time that have passed in space with planets and stars forming and dying. Things exploding, black holes doing black hole stuff, and nobody was there to see it. Kind of like the old, if I'm not looking at something, does it still exist? But only yeah, that stuff does exist, and shit's happening out there for nobody. Less scary, More mind-numbingly depressing is the dark era of the universe. When all the star fuel is gone, and it will be, and all the white dwarfs have gone cold and dark, and they will, and all the black holes have evaporated away into elementary particles, and they will, the universe will be a cold, dark place. Forever. The mere thought of what would happen if fire wasn't in the visible light spectrum. Good news, everyone. Methanol fire is completely invisible to the human eye in sunlight. Cockroaches can live for up to a week without their head. Cockroaches can live for 5 months on wallpaper glue. Cockroaches can hold their breath for up to 40 minutes. Yes, I have katsaritophobia. Fuck this whole thread. Makes me depressed.